Today we're going to be covering what I believe to be the 10 strongest level 0 survivor cards, and getting right into the list this time. Unlike Seekers, there's no need for a bunch of honorable mentions on most classes. We're going to be talking about the number 10 card, Live and Learn. This is essentially just get an action for free eventually. Sure, it costs the one card in your hand, but you will always eventually fail a proactive skill test. When you do, this gives you another chance at +2 skill value. And sure, it doesn't replicate skills, sure, it doesn't work on the Mythos phase because you'll have already suffered the penalties of failure, but this is just raw throughput, guaranteed additional actions at some point, and that makes it very, very strong, and to me, just barely gets it into the number 10 spot. Survivor's not a class with much need for economy, so the fact that their best economy card is Take Card only giving 2 resources makes a lot of sense, because it also gives 2 card draw and can be used on your teammates should they need it. Failing a test is not a hard thing to do. Many survivors can just take an investigate check and brick it immediately, but it's not going to be hard to guarantee success out of this at some point on pretty much anyone, and usually right away. It's a very, very strong economy card, and if Survivor needed economy more, this card might have ranked higher, but you're going to notice a trend with cards like Live and Learn costing 0 in this list. Survivor cards just aren't very expensive, so even though it's a great economy, Take Heart gets no higher than this. I think it's very funny that I rank Meat Cleaver as the 8th best level 0 Survivor card, because it is pervasive across Survivor fighters, even at high experience. You'd think if all the Survivor fighters are running Meat Cleaver in Scenario 8s, that it must be a sick card. But the reality is that Survivor just doesn't have better options. Don't get me wrong, in Scenario 1, in the early game, Meat Cleaver is a perfectly fine machete alternative. But as the campaign goes on, enemy health counts rise, and survivors continue to use Meat Cleaver with no better alternatives. Meat Cleaver sort of becomes iconic of the problem of survivors not having good weapons. Because even though this is a really good level 0 weapon, the fact it doesn't get replaced is a problem. It's also a testament to Meat Cleaver's strength, and to a lesser degree Pete Sylvester's, I suppose. But yeah, this is, I think, hands down the best Survivor weapon. And the fact that their best weapon is only number 8 is part of the problem for Survivor fighters, I suppose. Coming in at number 7, I have Look What I Found, for the low cost of 2 resources to get 2 clues, because just like I said with Live and Learn, eventually you will fail a skill test. This is a little bit more specific, you have to fail by 2 or less while investigating, but if you're the type of character to want clues, this is the type of thing that will eventually happen to you. It's just a very good card. Next up, we have the root of all recursion. At number 6, we have Scavenging. If you are investigating and you can reliably succeed by reasonable amounts, Scavenging will allow you to recur item cards. Maybe that just means you're committing newspaper for 2 bulk recursively, maybe it means you're getting charges back on old key rings, but it guarantees some sort of recursive value, and Scavenging, while not being nearly as strong as Scavenging level 2, while not being one of those powerful cards in the class, is certainly a card that enables a lot of the most unique stuff for Survivor, and I was really wishy-washy on where in the top 10 exactly it deserved to live, settling eventually at number 6. While Resourceful at number 5 does not recur as many cards as Scavenging, it does it at no cost. You don't need to play an asset, you don't need to pay a resource, you play this and you get to recur a card provided you pass the skill check. Scavenging is not something every character that focuses on recursion is going to use. Resourceful is going to be in damn near every Survivor deck because it's just such an easy, low-effort, universal form of recursion, and I always knew that wherever I play Scavenging, Resourceful was going in the slot above it for being the same thing, but less of it, but also more efficiently. At number 4, we have genuinely one of the strongest clue-finding assets in the game with Mariner's Compass. Yes, this requires you to be broke. No, that's not good. No, generally speaking, survivors don't have good book, but being able to just get deduction once per turn is one hell of a payoff. If it didn't exhaust before succeeding at the investigation, it would be much better. If it were like action investigate, if you succeed and you have no resources, you may exhaust this card to discover 1 additional clue, it would be so much better. As it stands, with many survivors, you're often testing at +2, and if you fail, which you will a good chunk of the time, then you just don't get the deduction this round. That said, it's still a very good card. Anything that can be read as recursive reduction, no matter how hard you have to squint your eyes, is incredible, and that is what Mariner's Compass does. Frankly, I had a hard time convincing myself I was allowed to put Lucky as high as number 3. Because Lucky does just give you +2 to a skill test. But the more I play the game, the more I look at characters and I say, the Mythos phase determines how good this character really is. Lucky is, unlike Live and Learn, specifically for beating the Mythos phase. Sure, you can use it to pass that +2 Mariner's Compass check we were just talking about, and that's a great use of Lucky. But you can also use this to change a Crypt Chill that you failed into a Crypt Chill that you passed. Because survivors didn't have good Mythos resilient stats, Lucky tends to read one resource, change a Mythos failure to a Mythos pass. Combine that with a few other high impact skill checks in every scenario where this might be relevant, and it's hard to justify placing this anywhere outside of the top 10. And personally, I rate Mythos Resilience so highly that I give it my number 3 spot. Next up at number 2, we have Short Supply. All that recursion shit is really good, and Short Supply, if you understand game theory, has no opportunity cost. Most survivors were not cycling their deck, meaning that Short Supply is only giving you information even if you don't interact with it. But if you do interact with it, if you have cards like Resourceful, Scavenging, Grounds for Supplies, I'm sure the list goes on, then this actually just turns those cards on from turn 1 at no cost. I felt sort of weird about including a permanent in this list, but I do think permanents should be allowed on these lists because it's still a level 0 card. And speaking of feeling weird about including a card on the list, let's go to my number 1 survivor card. It's Sparrow Mask. It's not even out yet, but I will not get off this hype train. This is a 1-cost slotless asset that gives you 2 uses that give you +2 head or foot for a skill test. You know, the Mythos phase, that one. How do you get more charges? Because you do, it's not just limited to 2. It would be pretty alright if it were limited to 2. Well, you just need to take damage or horror. You know, that thing you do all the time, where if it's not happening, you're winning hand over fist and have nothing to worry about. This just says you get to pass a shitload of Mythos tests every scenario, and also it's Crypt Chill fodder if you auto-fail that, I guess. Like, Sparrow Mask is the best Mythos Resilience card in the game. It's not even close. I can't believe this is a slotless 1-cost asset. Why is this so strong? Why? That's how I feel about Sparrow Mask. I'm not getting off the hype train. My Rita player proxied Sparrow Mask. I guess that's the wrong word. It's just in tabletop sim, so they used it. And I was like, yeah, that's just as nuts as I thought it was. Every time you use that, it comes in clutch. And you use it all the time because it keeps getting charges. It seems so incredibly strong, man. I am looking forward to playing with this and every survivor ever for the rest of time, because no one doesn't need this. Anyway, that's it. This is a quick one. That's the whole list of the top 10 survivor cards. You'll notice a general trend of guaranteed actions eventually in Mythos Resilience. It's the thing that defines Survivor, is that eventually they will persevere. The Mythos deck will not kill them. They're so thematically on point. And even though I think Sparrow Mask is insanely pushed, it is a very appropriate card for Survivor in terms of what it does. I just don't know why it cost 1. It feels like, you know, even at 2, I'd be saying like the exact same shit. The only way you push this card harder is you change that number to 0, right? The card's nuts. The card's incredible. Invest in Sparrow Mask stocks. It's only going up. That's probably a literal statement. It's getting tabooed to 2 costs in the future. If this card doesn't ever see a taboo, I'll eat my fucking hat. I don't have a hat. I'll go buy one. Probably this one because it's cheap, and I'll eat that hat. Anyways, I've been Rather Coherent. This has been the top 10 level 0 survivor cards, at least in my opinion. Thank you for watching. Thank you to my Patreon supporters, Evan and Jeffrey B, and I'll see all of you in the next one.